Hello, people. Do we have anyone watching? No, we're all alone. All right, welcome to another chat.
Mike, I'm so sorry.
30 chasing everyone away.
Yeah, it's
all right.
Here.
2 people at exactly the same time saying first. Who should we give it to? Is it Mad Pyman or Morpheus Maximus?
First.
Hello, Awaken New Israel, Bex, Eric Smith, how you going? Michael De Silva, hello.
So we have the StreamYard logo because StreamYard demoted me, and then Campbell, the paying customer, because we're admins on each other's accounts. Well, they decided just to demote him too, and I have access to his account, but he doesn't, and none of us can do more than one channel, so we're here on his channel instead of, we were planning on adding Mike's channel to the stream tonight, StreamYard, but instead you've taken back our capabilities, and then you're advertising about it like we're like, come on, like.
And they've even switched our accounts, so when I log in, I see Bernie's account. He logs in, he sees my account, so we can't even like pay to get it fixed and then get a refund. Like we're completely stuck. So thanks, StreamYard. So everyone, imagine that little duck up in the corner is actually an orange circle that says autodidactic.
I guess they gave us all the goose, eh?
Yeah, I know, right? I want the golden egg, though.
Yeah, well,
all right.
We got the goose.
We've got a goose. We're many gooses.
As autodidactic.
Oh, really? Oh, there you go. You better start saying intelligent things. Mad Pyman, come on. Can't Mark join us? I was just on a stream. There was a protest in Melbourne for, like, they had all the children out, and they had a few up on stage saying, we're not wearing masks. And there was, this major troll in there called Mark. And we spent about an hour just making fun of him, so that was good. Mad Pyman was there. The Rogue Auto. Oh, that sounds like a runaway car.
Ooh.
So what?
I've had this playing the whole time.
What is on the agenda for today? I suppose we can't play videos. We can't do anything.
Really?
No, we can. Here we go. I got some. This was what Mike is all about right now.
Yeah. Let me just kind of give it a little preview here of Moray King. You'll see in this video talks about HHO and basically how to get way more power output of HHO gas, because you'll explain that hydrogen is lighter than HHO, or Brown's gas, what they like to call it. So hydrogen will actually go to the surface of the water first. And what happens is, in most scenarios, if it's not configured properly, the Brown's gas is trapped inside the water. So you have to do a process called cavitation. It can either be done by injecting air into it, ultrasonic vibration, like Stanley Myers, he was using a coil, toroid coil. So by doing this, you're actually releasing the Brown's gas out of the water, because the Brown's gas, there's a lot more of it inside the water than the hydrogen. So the problem is, because it's heavier than hydrogen, it stays in the water. You have to get it out. And when you do this cavitation process, you get way higher input, like over 100% more input or output of the gas. So this video kind of explains the science behind everything and how it works. And he also touched base on Kenneth's shoulders and his EBOs. And it's all related to this. So it's a very good video. Everybody should watch it.
All right. Everyone pay attention.
Yep.
All right. So
you're up, Mr. Byrne.
Put this video on then.
And don't run away and leave us with ads of ex-president pedophiles.
A dry cell, when you use gaskets, you can let some of the plates float. because they'll get charged
No pedo
by
ads,
polarization
please,
on the
YouTube.
equipotential surfaces.
Please.
So you only need to, typically you end up with 4 volts between the plates. Denny Klein's video summarizes best the strange properties of Brown's gas. So I like to play this to introduce it to people who haven't seen it before.
Turn the machine on. Denny Klein fires up his hot new invention. His machine emits a flame that feels only slightly warm to the touch. But watch what happens when he touches anything else.
Instantaneously, I can burn a hole right down through the center of that brick.
The flame instantly turns hotter than the surface of the sun. Heat so intense it takes only seconds to literally burn a hole through charcoal. 3 seconds turns a brass ball to glowing liquid metal. Tungsten lights up like a sparkler. Steel, lead, and other metal slices on contact. Yet the tip of the welder stays cold to the touch.
No other gas will do this.
Denny Klein uses an alternative fuel source once thought impossible. He says people still have trouble believing him when he reveals his liquid fuel.
Water. Take water and electricity, and we break it down through our very unique electrolysis process.
Klein has just patented his process of converting H2O to HHO, producing a gas that combines the atomic power of hydrogen with the chemical stability of water.
It turns right back to water. You can see the water running off of this.
Klein originally designed his water-burning engine for cutting metal. He thought his invention would replace volatile acetylene in welding factories. And then one day, as he drove to his laboratory in Clearwater, he thought of another way to burn his HHO gas.
On a 100-mile trip, we use about 4 ounces of water.
Klein says his prototype 1994 Ford Escort can travel exclusively on water, though he currently has it rigged to run as a water and gasoline hybrid.
Simply speaking, it can change the world by reducing our dependence on fossil fuels.
These are equivalent to our...
Pete Dominici is helping Klein take his hydrogen technology patents from a 2-room office in Clearwater to consumer markets around the world.
You know what? Microsoft came out of nowhere, came out of the garage. Why not hydrogen technologies?
The duo is already in negotiations with one U.S. automaker and the U.S. government. Their plans have grown from basic welding with water to powering the entire world from the safest and cleanest fuel on Earth. Craig Patrick, Fox News.
Members of Congress recently invited Denny Klein to Washington to demonstrate his technology. Now his company is currently developing a Hummer for the U.S. military that can run on both water and gasoline. So far, his water-powered engines have passed all performance safety inspections. So all systems appear to be go right now, and gives new meaning to the term running water.
You just have to hope that water prices don't go up like...
And just a quick fact check, Microsoft was not started from a garage, although they would like you to think that it was.
Right.
Nearly everyone believes the energy is from hydrogen. Here we're going to propose the energy is not from hydrogen, and we're going to use the big anomalies around.
This is
Brown's
Maury
gas.
King,
It's a
and
cool
he's like,
flame.
wait here, no.
Yet it vaporizes tungstens. There's claims that it can alter radioactivity of radioactive material or cause element transmutation. Burning hydrogen certainly cannot do that. Furthermore, laboratory analysis shows there's little hydrogen in Brown's gas, and instead there's gaseous charged water clusters. I compared those clusters to Ken Scholder's work on his plasma charge clusters, and there was a class of self-organization in the matter ZPE conglomerate. That's the thesis of my work, that this actually occurs in plasmas. Now we can get it to occur in water. Ken Scholder shows it in a microscopic form of ball lightning that he calls EVs or EVOs. The ball lightning is a plasmoid form. It typically forms the vortex ring form that's an archetype for energy trapping. It's a natural stability. It's a force-free vortex that closes on itself. It's naturally stable as a vortex ring. The experiment's very simple. He takes a capacitor where he knows it's charged, very abruptly discharges it, and launches a small, tiny, micron-sized bead of ball lightning. And then when it hits the wetness plate, it creates craters. Way more energy is dissipated than what he put on the capacitor. He measured these charge clusters contain about 10 to the 11th electrons, 10 to the 6 ions. The charge to mass ratio is like the electrons, and they contain excessive energy. They also form into necklaces, which is unusual because they kind of still attract each other despite the fact they have different charges. They bore holes in high melting point ceramics. They carve trenches. And Ken Shoulders observed that they disrupt the electron bonds that makes the atoms let go in the metal. And that occurs in Brown's gas as well. It's not heat that's producing the disruption. And of course, element transmutation and radioactivity reduction just seems out of the paradigm, and yet Ken Shoulders is demonstrating that. The plasma charge clusters and the charged water clusters exhibit the same anomalies. Brown's gas is not hydrogen combustion. The energy is stored in a more coherent form. It exhibits a cool flame, just a little bit above the temperature of boiling water. People can pass their hand through the flame. They see that demonstration in Brown's gas. Furthermore, it doesn't boil water. If you just hit the flame on the water, the Brown's gas torch doesn't burn it. It doesn't boil it. Yet, it can vaporize tungsten. Tungsten melts at 6,000 degrees and vaporizes above 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So there you have it. We have an incredibly cold torch that is colder than all the torches, all the standard welding torches. It can vaporize tungsten above 10,000 degrees, and no other welding torch can do it. Clearly, the energy is being stored in a coherent form. It is not heat. Burning hydrogen certainly cannot explain it. Another energetic gas is present. Here's some of the empirical evidence from the hobbyists. There's the balloon test. You fill the balloon with Brown's gas, you wait till it falls to the ground, it vents away its hydrogen, and it still exhibits a balloon torch through a little tube. Fill a paper bag, a brown paper bag with the Brown's gas, seal it up, wait about 12 hours, all the hydrogen dissipates away. You open the bag, there's a heavier than air gas that remains at the bottom of the bag, and the gas can be ignited. Furthermore, if you can carefully pour the gas from one glass to another and still ignite the gas at the bottom of the glass. George Weissman, a famous researcher of Brown's gas, describes in detail what he observes as this heavier than air gas burns. He says it burns like an imploding ring, about a half a second to burn down. So here's an action item for the chemistry departments in universities. Create some Brown's gas, vent away the hydrogen. Does the remaining gas burn? What is it? Chris Ekman did this at Idaho State University. He was an undergraduate. He worked with the chemistry professor to work with the equipment. He detected there was little hydrogen there, neither diatomic or monatomic, but he would observe a gaseous water cluster of some sort without excess electrons. And he confirmed the low temperature of the flame. This is Eagle Research, is George Weissman's website. It's probably one of the best websites for information on Brown's gas. What George has observed when you first start an electrolyzer up where the plates are well separated so he can see the activity, he'll see the bubbles of hydrogen and oxygen and would be expected, but he then says, there's never mentioned in any textbook in science. There's a middle set of bubbles forming in between. Bob Boyce made a similar observation. He says when he first starts it up, you can see these two jets colliding in the middle, being emitted from both plates right at the beginning, and they also form the middle set of bubbles. Keep the idea of colliding jets in mind. We'll be revisiting it. It seems like that's where the energetic clusters are. Sort and Gorley harvest just the middle set of bubbles. And they say that Brown's gas is a mixture. They treat hydrogen as a contaminant, and they just want the middle set of bubbles. They think they're the first to discover this, so they named the gas after themselves, SG gas. When they dissolve the gas in water, it still tries to get out. Here they can catch it sometimes in ice cubes, and there's claims of health benefits and things like that for the water with the pure form of Brown's gas stored in it. So here are the anomalies. It adheres to matter. It's electrically polarized. When it implodes, it implodes instead of explodes and gives off an electric shock. Has the cool flame, which sublimates tungsten, pretty well cuts through any of the materials. There's claims of neutralizing radioactive waste and claims of element transmutation. These are completely out of the paradigm. However, Vernon Roth, presenting last year, also observed element transmutation. Because Vernon's with us in the audience, and he shared his information so well over all these years, I think we should honor him. Thank you, Vern. Well, Mark LeClair is our new inventor. He's going to explain how water cavitation can create the microscopic craters, can carve trenches, even transmute elements and manifest excess energy. Sonoluminescence is well studied. Under ultrasonic conditions, water mixed with argon or xenon or other inert gases, under ultrasonics, emit this bluish light. This has created a lot of excitement because if that bluish light were a thermal spectrum, then people would say, holy cow, those temperatures are above the temperature of the sun, we could produce fusion. However, Julian Schwinger and other scientists proposed, no, the abrupt scalar compression from the bubble is activating the 0-point energy and converting it into blue photons. And so we're not getting as much energy, but we are getting a 0-point energy coherence, and thus we are tapping the 0-point energy. The only problem is we're dissipating all the energy as light. However, when a cavitation bubble collapses near a surface or an irregularity, it starts to dimple in and forms what's called a reentrant jet. All the energy of the collapsing water bubble gets concentrated into the reentrant jet. And now we're do a concentration on the order of a nanometer. Roger Stringham recognized the advantages of this, and he proposed using it for sonofusion. He's pictured on the first issue of Infinite Energy magazine, and he has some success with his experiments. And basically, the reentrant jet in deuterium injects into the target, and he thinks it can create some deuterium events. Well, they can create transmutation events as well, as we'll see. So here we are. The water, when it's near a surface, dimples up, forms a torus. All the energy of the torus gets concentrated, and inside that concentrated energy at the tip are pressures over 300,000 pounds per square inch. Under these pressures, a new form of solid state water can afford, and that's what Mark LeClair discovered, called a macro ionic water crystal. Here's a diagram that Mark drew. At the front of the crystal is a plasma bow shock wave that he thinks is where the 0-point energy coherence, and that is so similar to Ken Shoulder's EVOs. I think it's the same phenomena occurring because he's getting the same anomalies. Mark has 4 patents for controlling reentrant jets to do actual engineering with them. What he wants to do is do nanotechnology to cut at the nanoscale level with these reentrant jets. So what he does is he creates a laser strike to make the bubble just above a hole. The bubble expands, and as it contracts, it launches the reentrant jet. But instead of hitting the surface, it goes through the hole and accelerates through to then cut on the next surface over. And when he lets it accelerate, it exhibits a self-acceleration phenomena. There's way more energy, and that's where he's getting the transmutation. Likewise, he can use one cavitation bubble to target a second. He first makes the big bubble, then hits the laser pulse just a little bit afterwards to start the small bubble. The big bubble launches its reentrant jet first, wipes out the small bubble, and can target what's ever behind it. Now, Mark LeClair is not the only one. Oh, got one more slide. Here's his apparatus with the laser and how it's set up. He's a very good mechanical engineer, and he wants everybody to know about his work. Mark LeClair is not the only one to control the reentrant jets from cavitation bubble. Check out what pistol shrimp can do.
ocean is filled with a cacophony of animal noise that can even disrupt the sonic transmissions of submarines. Most of the din is made by a surprisingly insignificant creature, the pistol shrimp. By snapping its claws, it can not only make communication sounds, but something far deadlier. These shrimps are its prey. It deals a knockout blow from a distance by using its claw as a sonic weapon. First, its claw is cocked like a pistol, then fired. The effect is literally stunning. As the claw snaps shut, it fires a blast of bubbles. Incredibly, as the bubbles collapse, they momentarily reach the temperature of the sun. This implosion causes a shock wave that stuns.
Okay. I didn't. We can move on. Yeah, let's just move on. You got the main point. Those are bad dudes. Yeah, let's just end it, John. Move on. So propellers are well known to induce cavitation. You just have to move the surface faster than 40 miles per hour, and you'll create enough vacuum, low pressure, to create the cavitation bubbles. And it's famous for producing the corrosion and the erosion effects, the pitting. They come from the reentrant jets. The crystal that Mark proposes is a hexagonal form, and the linear axis has linear water down the axis. Here's a diagram. The axis, this is just one strand in the linear water, and the strands are connected by covalent bonds, and there is a top view of the water crystal. And this diagram is a 3D rendering, trying to represent the crystal in 3 dimensions. He's able to photograph imprints. He shoots the water crystal into a rust particle and was able to make these photographs with the microscope. They were kind of pretty. They are very fast. They tend to, and they can self-accelerate up to Mach 4. They hit with pressures over 100,000 psi. The water crystal has a linear axis of HO, HO, HO. They're trigonal or hexagonal in shape around the peripheral. They have a positive charge at the head and a negative charge at the tail, and the plasma shock wave at the head, it looks like shoulders EVO. And the critical thing is the self-acceleration. It's like propulsion. Mark calls it the LeClair effect, where this bow shock wave manifests the self-acceleration. When it hits something, then it can cause nuclear reactions, just like the EVO strikes. Picture of a long chain chasing its tail. The positive head is chasing the tail and it's carving a trench. And here's this transmutation experiment. This is the components. There's a rolled up aluminum veneer. It has decorative holes drilled in it. And he rolls it up, puts it in the plexiglass tube. He uses a beefy pump. It's a swimming pool pump made to run at 25 gallons per minute. Here it's assembled. And what he does is he starves the pump right there with the valve, and he starves it down to about 1/2 gallon per minute. And that pump makes a loud squeal between 5 and 7 kilohertz. His water bucket's about 2 feet down as he pulls as he pulls the water up, it creates cavitation bubbles. He warns that he was sat too close to it because he was constantly adjusting the valve. And he gave himself the symptoms of radiation poisoning when he ran this experiment for half an hour or longer. But when he unrolled the aluminum veneer, he found element transmutation on the surface. That white blotch is actually carbon in a diamond form. The big surprise was it wasn't just a simple move the aluminum nucleus to something else. He was getting nucleosynthesis, elements all over the periodic table. He also found there were rare isotopes that you don't typically see in nature, and they tended to be multiples of the helium nucleus, which made him think this is very much the type of thing that happens in supernovas. Now, you might think, oh, this is too far out. This is too far-fetched. How could we possibly believe this? Well, there's two other experiments that do the same type of thing. The plasmoid strikes also exhibits it, and the nucleosynthesis from the large plasmoid strikes do it likewise. So Ken Shoulders announced it at the 10th Conference on Cold Fusion, showing he also got nucleosynthesis all over the periodic table. And the work in the Ukraine from the Proton 21 laboratory, they have the university professors involved in this work. They make a very pure copper target. They hit it with a plasmoid about 1 centimeter in size, and they get the same thing, nucleosynthesis all across the periodic table. This work is completely ignored in Western academia. This is probably, their experiments are probably the best transmutation experiments on the planet. They have a conference every year called
Let's just ignore the revolutionary technology and science that, will solve all of our problems.
So here's an action item for the physics department. Repeat LeClair's transmutation experiment. Measure the new isotopes and ask colleagues to replicate. So how does cavitation relate to Brown's gas? Well, the collapsing bubble launches the reentrant jet, which creates
the toroid.
The linear
toroid
axis
is the geometry of the universe.
HHO down the axis. And is there any evidence for this linear water? Well, it turns out Chris Ekman in his studies got some preliminary evidence at the Idaho State University, and he presented his results at the MPA, where he gets observed a linear isomer of water with extra electrons, so it could take that form. Those electrons had to be out at the d orbitals. He realized that alone would not be stable, so he suggested it's participating in a cluster like Rydberg matter. And in Rydberg matter, the nuclei are organized in the electrons shell out at the orbitals, orbits all of them. And those electrons are at a very high energy state. So now we have a mechanism for storing a lot of energy in the water. So here we have a linear axis, and down that linear water crystal, how can its energy be captured? Well, if it can close head to tail to make a ring, you could attach Rydberg matter. And in Rydberg matter, the nuclei are organized in the electrons shell out at the orbitals, orbits all of them. And those electrons are at a very high energy state. So now we have a mechanism for storing a lot of energy in the water.
Sorry, I had to reverse and take a
So
picture
here we
of
have
that.
a linear
Very
axis,
important information.
And down that linear water crystal, how can its energy be captured? Well, if it can close head to tail to make a ring, you could attach, we could get a ring of this, but unfortunately these large rings are observed to be unstable. However, they can decay into smaller rings, very similar to vortex ring decay that decays in a bunch of smaller rings. And if the rings are under 0.5 micron, they can be stable. So this is a simplified version. If there's just one strand around, we would have the ring. Likewise, we could get collisions. If we have two colliding water crystals, remember the colliding reentrant jets? coming at each other. They could attract head to tail. In the shear collision, it'll create a vortex. They'll start to spin. And from this collision, from the melee comes the debris, a series of small water crystal rings. This is analogous to particle collisions, where on the accelerators, when two particles collide, we get a whole spectrum of debris of smaller particles. This seems to be something that's similar. So there you have it. These d orbitals, we have a ring. These d orbitals are held
That looks
way
like a
out
magnetic
to make the
generator.
Rydberg matter. And when you when you model it that way, you realize, wow, we have a metastable torus form. So in one model, we have George Weissman's electrically expanded water, we have Chris Ekman's linear water isomer, and we have Foster Gamble's torus form, all holding excess energy to explain how a huge amount of energy can be stored in Brown's gas. So Mark says when the ring breaks, if there's structure to it, like the water crystal, it could relaunch, and we have a plasma bow shock wave, and that now can interact and cause the transmutation. Likewise, when we're only at a half a micron in size, the water crystal ring could, when ignited, could go straight into an EVO plasmoid, just like Ken's shoulders. So what we want to do is cavitate the water in the electrolyzers. That's going to bump up the number of those particles and create a huge amount of extra energy compared to electrolysis. So how do we cavitate? Well, people are doing it inadvertently by making electrolysis gas in the tight gaps. That's why those tight gaps were so important. You can also cavitate by pulling a Venturi vacuum. You can blow air through the gaps. You can oscillate an electric field. Pulse wave modulation does that. Any type of vibration, mechanical vibration, sonic and ultrasonic are well known to cavitate water. And of course, there's cavitating pumps, and even vortex actions can produce negative pressures that cause water cavitation, creates the cavitation bubbles. We'll look at examples of each, some of the best examples from the web. The electrolysis gas in narrow gaps that have a rough surface. I thought the best example came from Paul Zagouras because he had the simplest means to make the plates. His plates are incredibly close together, 0.6 millimeters. He had to wire every plate as a wet cell. He stressed that when he roughened his plates with a media blaster or a sandblaster, he said you had to put the blaster at 45-degree angle in order to make sharp edge craters. That makes a barbed crater, a barbed lip crater. He said that was very important. We'll revisit that on a cavitating motor. Here's a photograph of his media blaster. And Paul was one of the best producers of abundant gas coming from the electrolyzer. He sold about 7 before he got suppressed and shut down, but Walter McNichols bought one and stuck a YouTube up. John, can we play this one? It's a short one.
The first experiment with the Paul Zagouras cell, sitting in 2 inches of tap water. I'm going to turn the switch on. It's on, and you can see the tremendous amount of hydrogen and the bubbles that are coming off of it. It's just phenomenal.
But you don't want to be smoking around that, let me tell you.
I met Paul Zagouras on a trip back east, and he told me a little bit about the suppression story. What they said was, you can't run these cars on water. He was running a car on this device. He said, because people will short the oil stocks and it'll wreck the economy. I go, oh, give me a break. You already wrecked the economy. You did it by the old-fashioned way of greed and fraud. Don't go blaming some poor inventor.
That is why
vacuum
King is my
Venturi
hero.
through his
Like,
device.
just
He could
calls him
actually
right out,
suck the
like-
water into his plates and immediately get the gas on his car. Blowing air, can cause turbulence and cavitation. Archie Blue has a famous patent and stories of running a car engine on it. The holes are not shown because it's a side view. He just blew air through the electrolyzer. Mechanical vibration can do it. Omasa discovered that it gets a very, very good high-quality gas with mechanical vibration, working with a parallel plate electrolyzer. He jerks his vibrator, has to jerk very fast to make the cavitation, and he stored the gas under pressure for 2 years. And I might add that he didn't store hydrogen. He makes it a point in this video that you don't store hydrogen. Your containment of storage should vent away the hydrogen, because storing hydrogen is unsafe. When you look at this video and read the subtitles, keep the cavitation hypothesis in mind.
東京大田区のプラントメーカー、日本テクノ。日本テクノの大政社長が開発したこの攪拌機。従来のようなプロペラが回転するものではなく、低周波の振動で攪拌する。中の水は安定して循環するという。洗剤を入れても泡が全く立たない。一体なぜか。通常電気分解すると酸素と水素が発生する。しかし大政社長が過去にこの攪拌機を使ってメッキをしたところ、難点とされる大きな泡や水素の爆発が発生しなかった。
振動が伝わっているために表面張力が壊れてですね、泡が形成しようとっても壊れちゃうんですね。だから泡は作りたくても作れない状態がこの現象じゃないかというふうに言われてるんですね。
これをヒントにした大政社長、水に電気を流すと白い煙のようなものが、これは酸水素ガス。普通の電気分解だと水素と酸素のガスが別々に出てくる。このガスは振動攪拌機でないと得られない。
酸素と水素のガスがですね、元素がナノマイクロバブルになって出るところが従来のですね電気分解と全く違うんですね。そしてあと安全な酸素と水素の私の考えでは結合体のガスが得られると。
水素ガスは分子が細かいため容器などに保存しても漏れやすい。しかしこのガスは2年近く同じ圧力で保存されている。大政社長は酸素と水素2つの分子が結合し特殊な構造を作っているからだと考える。ガスの用途はまずバーナーの燃料だ。温度はおよそ700度で火の中では低い方だが、鉄板を切断できるほどのエネルギーに変わるという。さらに新たな用途も生まれようとしている。東京海洋大学の伊藤教授、7月に酸水素ガスを用いてある実験を成功させた。タンクに溜めた酸水素ガスを燃料に小型エンジンを動かすことができた。空気の取り込み口は塞いでいる。ガスの中に酸素があるため燃焼時に空気中の酸素が必要ないからだ。水からできた燃料のため燃焼後はまた水に戻り、有害な排ガスは発生しないという。
非常に安定な圧力を加えても爆発しない。インフラとして整備して自由に給油と同じように給ガスができるような状況が作れれば、自動車の燃料として置き換わる可能性というのは十分にあって、
ガスの正体を調べようと大政社長は液化を試みた。酸素はマイナス183度、水素はマイナス253度で液化するが、このガスはおよそマイナス178度で液化した。
構造はわからないにしても、新しい、地球上でその水の第二の水ができた。エンジンとか発電機だとか 今化石燃料に変わるものが水から作れてまた水に戻るというふうに、究極のね、地球を救うね、燃料ですよね。全ての燃料にしたい。
解明できていない部分が多い酸水素ガスだが大きな可能性を秘めている。
We need a hand signal interpreter.
Audio.
All right, how to
oscillating electric field. As soon as you have any charge clusters or
Pause there for a minute. And,
to cavitate or not to cavitate? That is the question.
no, cavitation is key. That is the answer.
Yep, exactly. And you could do that by injecting air into it. You could use ultrasonic frequencies. And also what Stanley Myers was doing, he had a toroid coil at the bottom of the electrolyzer. So you could do it by several means. Just cavitating the water. You can have a little propeller in there pushing the water around. That's all you got to do. And I was playing with this stuff back in 2005. And I had my electrolyzer installed in a Pontiac Grand Prix, 2001 Pontiac Grand Prix. And just on its own, with no cavitation, I was increasing my fuel mileage by about almost 40%. So if I knew this information now, back then, God knows how well that system would have worked. So I was actually even thinking about dabbling with this stuff again, maybe in the summer. But yeah, definitely this video gives some really, really important information if you're into the HHO stuff.
Oh yeah, like I will not keep saying, never stop saying this, that Moray King is an absolute hero and legend.
You know, this video is 12 years old.
Oh, exactly. There's some newer ones in the
yeah, I've seen them. Yeah.
The global BEM YouTube channel.
Oh, we lost Bernie. Probably switched his camera, and I can't hear you, Campbell. I can't hear nothing.
Sorry, I was on mute. Cavitation is separating the gases. Is that what cavitation is?
Well, what it is because what's happened is the Brown's gas is heavier than hydrogen. So if you don't cavitate it, the only thing that goes to the surface of the water is hydrogen. That's not what you want. That's actually the contaminant. What you want is the Brown's gas. The only way you can get the Brown's gas out is by injecting either air into there, anything to create movement in the water. Then the Brown's gas will make its way out. But you have to disturb the water. It could be ultrasonic frequency. It could be a toroid coil that's pulsed. It could be a little propeller in there just to disturb the water. So
and that will give off the gas. That will
Brown's gas. Yes,
the HHO.
Yeah. See, you got two anode. You got the anode and the electrode. All right, so you got a positive, negative. On the positive side, you get oxygen. On the negative side, you get hydrogen. What the Brown's gas is formed in between the two electrodes, and this is what I did not know back in 2005. The gas that I want is in between the two electrodes. It's not actually the hydrogen I want. The hydrogen.
It's always in the middle, right? The Vesica Pisces, where the two fields intersect. That's
where the magic happens.
Yeah.
It's where the magic happens, is in between the two electrodes.
And so it's literally just electrolysis, but you need to disturb the water, and that will release this Brown's gas, and you can
the nuclear reaction that's happening in the middle. Yeah. And
okay, so there's something going on between the two fields interact.
Right.
The hydrogen
That's
and that's creating. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. That's where the 0 point energy is being created.
So it is in your mind a 0 point energy type thing. It's
Well,
just
because that's what Moray King is saying, that this interaction is given the same effects that Kenneth Shoulders was doing with the plasmoids. Okay, same kind of deal, and it's also being done in the electrolyzer.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is that what Mars was running his car off, or was he running it off hydrogen?
No, his was running on the Brown's gas.
He was.
See, because he was disturbing or cavitating the water, that's why he was able to produce enough gas to run the vehicle. If you don't disturb, if you don't cavitate the water, you're only getting the hydrogen, and it doesn't come out in the volume that you need to sustain an internal combustion engine. But if you cavitate it, now you're getting the Brown's gas into the equation, and that creates enough gas to sustain an internal combustion engine. So the cavitation is key to do this.
You see this one bubble going flying off the left side of the cathode. And then in the mid right there goes pew pew, keeps shooting up. That's like
is that from your place, Bernie? The one that you showed us? Yeah.
And so you see all the hydrogen bubbling up there on the cathode side. Sorry, so that's the anode side that oxygen pump.
That's right. That's on the positive. The positive is not
in the middle where the Brown's gas is being produced. You can see is also where it's magnetically taking this cap that's floating on the top in those videos.
Yeah, the Brown's gas is still infused in the water. That's why you need the cavitation to get it out.
Yeah.
So if you were to get Bernie, those little pumps you buy for a fish tank that creates the air bubbles?
Yeah.
Okay, stick that in the water. I have one myself, so I could actually do this experiment. So you focus the bubbles underneath the electrolyzer. So if you can somehow fix it underneath that, and you do that, then you're going to get the Brown's gas coming out. Your effect is going to greatly increase.
I'll show you also. It takes about 2 to 3 days for one setup to happen, but basically the entire ecosystem within the jar, the monoatomics, and the anode and cathode nanocoat completely, and then it's the Brown's gas is all that comes out, and it comes out from everywhere.
Now you can see. Now the one great thing about this. See, back in the day when I was doing it, I was pumping 12 volts at about 8 amps. Now, with this process, they're actually proving that you can get more of effect with less power. So they were doing about 4 volts a plate at a lot less amperage. So that means the amount of energy input is decreased now, and you're getting way more out. This is where you're getting your over unity. You're getting excessive amounts of power coming out versus how much you're putting into it.
So this was a drop of blood that then grew into a bunch of cells, and then just lived and was its own little planet universe in this little galaxy as it grew in the monoatomic plasma silver.
It was growing.
Oh yeah, it grew and grew, and it was growing cells, more and more cells. It wasn't water that dissipated. It actually, you can see there, this is plasma cells that have grown, and it keeps growing over the time.
So the next thing you got to do is chop one of your fingers off and then put it in there.
I'd rather grow an extra finger and bring it out of there if I need, not sacrifice one in. This is no.
You need a specimen.
Witchcraft. I am an alchemist. All right.
Need a specimen. Come on.
Jeez. So is that thing still growing or what?
Well, this video is 4 years old, so.
So you don't know. You might wake up one night with it tapping you on the shoulder, saying, brother, I found you.
He's in a jar somewhere.
But anyways,
knock me away.
So yeah, it's fascinating stuff. I think everybody should really look into it because I ran my car with it. It was working. Oh, and I also had a friend that did have one too. I met him years later after I did all this, and I go, "Hey, you did the hydrogen thing?" And he goes, "Yeah, I did it." And he goes, "Oh yeah, you should check this out." So he goes in his house and he brings this piece of paper out, and he took his car for an emissions test. And when he had the hydrolyzer in the car, the emissions on the car went basically all to zero. No carbon dioxide, no carbon monoxide. All those values were zero.
Because it's just water. The byproduct is literally H2O water together.
No, but the thing was, he was still running gas. He had it as a hybrid mode.
Wow.
He had it, so the noxious gases were neutralized by it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Jeez.
Yeah, it made it. You didn't even need a catalytic converter. This thing took away all the noxious gases.
See, it just shows, right? The governments of the world, that they actually want to save us.
Sorry, if you guys watch, I'm now moving the lid away, and it's insane how it constantly goes right back to the middle, right where that brown gas sort of is supposed to be produced, and that's eventually get produced in the. I can show other videos later, but just
see, that's the focal point. What he's talking about. That's where you're getting those toroidal formations. So it's drawing it in. It's drawing it in because of the 0 point energy that's being formed within the middle of the toroid. So that is the 0 point. That's why it's pulling your lid to the middle.
So is that why all these cathedrals have twin towers at the so they're creating two toroidal forces that intersect?
Sure. Because that seems to be the focal point of where the energy is.
Seems to be in everything that we've been talking about for the last few months. The Vesica Pisces, the intersection of the two fields, that seems to be the key.
See, you could even look at Tesla's numbers thing. He talks about 369. So there you go, 369.
And in the
middle.
Through phase. Oh yeah, it's the vortex-based mathematics, that 369. It's a beautiful thing.
So there you go.
If you watch the clouds of the different monoatomic silver moving, they actually go out and come in and form this giant toroid. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly it. Because it's creating the 0 point in between those two electrodes. So any molecule and any formation that's in that proximity is going to form that toroidal field, right? It's a field.
Field of dreams, man.
It's mind-blowing.
We've just been taught everything's so wrong. Everything's clearly about fields and interactions, not about bloody physical molecules and things spinning around. It's
and all this stuff is being all discovered outside of academia. Now,
well, of course,
right?
Academia are taught not to look. They're taught, no, you're smart. Look, here's all the answers. See how smart you are.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They feed their own egos.
For sure. So do you have one of these on your car? Is that right?
Back in 2005, I did, yeah.
You did? Okay. Why'd you take it off?
Well, the thing was, it was consuming too much power, and it also started messing with the computer. And, because, the computers were starting to really kind of take over the operation.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because they're all got sense.
You got to do them on older. You have to convert older cars.
Yeah. Like my mechanic actually has a friend who's making them professionally for diesel trucks, and apparently,
I want one because I got a diesel minibus.
There you go.
That's the perfect.
1984, man, big
beautiful. It's a year older than I am. That's awesome.
There you go.
See, that's what you should be using it on.
Jeez.
That's what we will be using it on, guys.
Jeez, man, I had half a mullet in 1984.
Yeah.
It's just a young whippersnapper, Bernie.
See, it's funny how all this kind of came full circle.
What?
You know, it's kind of funny how this whole thing came full circle. I just stumbled on this video literally today, and I'm like, oh my god! Like I was so
I've been
close
watching
to it.
Moray King for a long time, brother. I'm glad you found him.
Yeah, it's like, oh my god, what was I could have gone so much further with this, but this wasn't really known back then in 2005. How many years ago has that been now? It's been a while.
This Brown's gas, it sounds like you can use it for anything pretty much.
Well, you can run a car with it. Like if you do this you can run motorcycles with it, mopeds.
Can you use it like as a cooking fuel?
Yeah, you can. Well, see, it doesn't burn water, so you have to basically come up with some kind of rig to do some kind of
Mike,
induction.
if you see here,
So does it boil water?
Off of this. And then there's a third gas starting to come off in the middle. There's these really tiny ones off of the anode there, and then there's the big guy that just appears out of nowhere and goes flying up.
Yeah, it's the ones that are coming from the middle. That's what you want. The hydrogen's considered as a contaminant, and it's also unstable and it's unsafe to hold it in a reservoir.
And they've had us focusing on hydrogen, haven't they? Everyone thought it was hydrogen that was the free fuel.
Like you could take that Brown's gas that you generate inside that in the canister, and you could pour it out and freeze it, and you can store it for years. Yeah, you can freeze it.
Liquid, doesn't it?
No way.
It's a liquid. It's in the liquid.
Yeah,
so all you do,
it turns to liquid when you freeze it.
Yeah,
when you cool it.
When you cool it and add some air to it, you got your fuel. You can take it anywhere, and it's stable.
And exactly, it's stable.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. It's not noxious.
Yeah,
and it seems to neutralize other contaminants. I mean, geez, I guess the government really should ban that because
don't give them
so
any
concerned
ideas.
about climate change, right?
But
see self-organization in this one?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It self-organizes.
Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, and do you know what that looks like? That looks like all the scrolling that we see at the top of the pillars and on all the old buildings.
Yes, it does.
Yep.
The double torus.
Yep. See?
Which, funny enough, is on the end of all the wooden stringed instruments like violins and basses and violas. Have all got that scroll.
See, the best part about this, you can go to Home Depot and get all the parts and build this.
Yes, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to write down a parts list. Yes, and
the blue here is copper oxide, and then the white is pure monoatomic silver.
Like, see, this is what I'm saying. The stuff, all the experiments that I'm making, I'm not in a machine shop or a laboratory with $1 million budget. I'm doing this on basically pocket change, right?
Wow. Yeah.
And, everything I'm doing is on pocket change.
And no doubt there's so much out there that we can just get for free. Like I don't know if you have it in Canada, but we have like curbside collections,
right?
And they're just full of electronics, right? Most of them probably under 3 years old. They've got to be full of stuff that you can use.
Sure, old electronic stuff have amazing things inside that you can take out and use: capacitors, diodes, transistors, 555 timer chips. There's so many things you can salvage out of junk and make it into incredible stuff.
We should definitely do an episode on that. What are the best things to find? What can you get out of them?
Like,
what's got red mercury in it?
So, can anyone explain in this, and this happens all the time, see how there's like the blue and then the orange? And it's like, it's the same copper thing completely immersed in water, and then it goes into blue and red areas. And it's like, it's actually the magnetic field, like the blue and red, but it's like, how is the chemical reaction any different in certain areas where the magnetism is different?
Physical expression.
Okay, so the one that's turning green there, that's on the positive. So What's coming off in the process is oxygen. Okay, so that oxygen is oxidizing, right?
Yeah,
On the
good call.
okay, so that's where you're getting the greenish blue. That's the
That's the
oxidation.
positive side.
Okay, the other side.
No, but this is all positive. This is all positive, though.
Oh, it
And
is
the other
all
side's
positive.
reversed, is it?
Yeah.
Like the other side's green on the top
This
and
is
red.
all coming in positive.
And of course, I mean, close to blue and red, right?
And when you take it out of the water, it turns red. It solidifies as a red.
Huh.
Wow.
Are the coils both the same size, same windings, everything?
But yeah, it's just one big same copper from the state. That's the same wire.
Just bent in a horseshoe.
Yeah, I've just wound it in several different maglev coils. Into one.
So basically, the two coils, what I could see is maybe they're polarizing each other.
They are, and it happens all the time in different types of coils. Sometimes it's like it'll go around like just like on the opposite side of the wire, like a back and forth, like beep 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 beep.
Yeah,
beep.
because you got two coils
or
there.
sometimes it's these big zones, or sometimes it's like alternating zones. It's so crazy.
Yeah, it's probably because
Really
the
how
two
the magnetic
coils.
field is formed.
Yeah, you're creating a trapped magnetic field because a torus, when you create an electromagnetic field, it's trapped within itself, right? It cannot expand outwards. There is no north and no south. So in the middle is your 0 point, okay? So anything that's in the middle will be drawn through the middle. That's why you constantly have that, the waveform is going in, right? Yeah. So yeah, that's interesting effect.
Was that grounded or did it have a negative at all,
No,
Burn?
that was there's no negative. There's just a cathode on the opposite side. That was the anode side, and that was the cathode.
So just a constant charge going
copper
in.
on copper.
Yeah.
Oh man,
That's silver on copper.
that looks like where Brown's gas comes from.
Yeah, that's silver on copper. That's some Brown's gas coming out of there.
Yeah, you would get a lot more if you had some cavitation going. Yeah.
And then, so when you get cavitation, does the Brown's gas rise up first, like it comes up, and then you can catch it?
Yeah, because hydrogen is lighter than Brown's gas.
Yeah,
it's a lighter. Atomically, it's lighter. So the hydrogen's going to come out first, and then if you can disturb or cavitate the water, then you can force the Brown's gas out.
So it will float up to a point, but it's heavier than hydrogen and heavier than oxygen.
As long as you cavitate it, it will come out.
Yep. So basically, you just need like something on the top of the experimenter tube that goes in.
Tube, disturb it with air. Yeah, like.
And then when you take the top off, the Brown's gas stays in the tube, doesn't it? In the container.
So this one, the gas was steaming off,
Is that
and
right?
that's like the Brown's gas that like it literally stays as this like creamy, almost
that's ridiculously
gaseous,
easy
but
to
like
make.
plasma like solid stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's just.
Yeah, there's a lot of atomic stuff
Smoke, but
going
it's
on in there.
pure. Yeah, I guess it's smoke. It's hazy.
Yeah, but you have to understand, you're basically doing fusion. All the academia could deny it, but there's obviously a fusion process happening in the water because, there's nothing else to really explain, all the different anomalies that are going on in this water. It has to be some form of fusion process.
Fusion. So what I thought would be the opposite. What's fusing?
Well,
is it not?
It's changing molecular structures of elements.
That's called fusion as well. Okay.
And it's also creating new stuff. They took some of this material after they ran it and did all the diagnostic atomic testing on it. And they were finding basically so many different isotopes and different metals, and everything was showing up in it. So it was creating this stuff because it wasn't in there before they started. So
was this the Brown's gas that they found? All that?
Yeah. They would take the plates out that they would use for the electrolyzer and then put it through a spectrometer that it will tell you all the different elements that are in that metal. And they were finding all these different exotic isotopes and exotic metals, including gold and silver, and all this stuff was showing up in there.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so they don't actually know what this Brown's gas is. It's just
HHO. It's HHO.
Oh, it is HHO, is it?
Yeah.
But it's a plasmatic HHO. It's like a plasmoid. So in this one, you can see on the top right-hand side, the gator clip eroded through there. So that was on the anode side, and it lost its the input on that. And then as soon as one half of the connection in broke, it gets this yellow, what the alchemists call the sulfur state. And it goes from instantly being that blue or white, whichever state it was beforehand, either white or blue, into spontaneously everything turns into this yellow sulfur, supposedly sulfurous. So I need to get it tested. And that would be like unbelievable level of fusion and transmutation and proving the ancient alchemists' science on a nuclear understanding of the universe.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, it looks delicious too.
No, you never ever, if it's this yellow, the green, the blue, that is how you die instantly. Like, that's how you get your heavy metal poisoning. And it's like, like water, right? Water can either like feed you or it can kill you if it's toxic. And that's why yellow water, you stay away from it. Like green, really green, blue.
Funny how it looks like what was that ghost from Ghostbusters? Was it Goober or something?
Slimer.
Slimer. He slimed me, that's right. Looks like that, same color.
Yeah.
Toxic. And he had like that toxic gas coming off him all the time. Interesting.
Yeah.
So how's crypto? Jeez. You seen the markets? Far out.
Some are fucked, some are gonna do better. So here's another good example. See how it's blue, then it's red, and then it's blue again on the front one?
Yeah.
And that was completely submerged into water. That's just one straight copper coil. And then this is also just a straight copper coil that's completely green.
So there's got to be different reaction going off
And they
where
went
the red
into the
is, where
same
the
salt
blue is.
water. It's just whether it's on the anode or cathode or the voltage going in.
Is it pulsed or not?
Nope, not in these ones.
Yeah, you're gonna try something with a square wave pulse.
Yeah, exactly. I need a better experiment than in my basement. I got to get a lab before going into that because it is fusion, and it's like I don't want to mess around with, because when I was doing these ones, I was out in a garage, and like I had a heated garage that it's like I could do all sorts of stuff with. Now that I'm back in my house, it's like, yay, I need a lab.
Yeah.
So please feel free to donate to 1-800 Let's Buy Bernie a Science Lab and Mike. And get Campbell his mobile bus that will turn into a Science Lab podcast too.
Explorer vehicle. Yes, it needs a four-wheel drive conversion. Then I can go anywhere. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
So it's like there I have one that's like, well, again, straight green copper coil or solenoid there on the Keshi pens, but it's like they can be red, they can be green, they can be blue, they can be black, white, pink, and it's like it's just different phases, but it's just copper and salt water, and it's like how the hell is it turning into all these different things? It just But the alchemists describe it and make sense of it. And when I was connecting it to Sir Isaac Newton's work, it's just like, whoa, okay. Keshe crossed with Isaac Newton, and yeah, it's interesting times. There's some of the monoatomics I collected and made, and then this guy right here is a copper nail that has a magnet on the top of the lid of the saltwater jar with the copper monoatomic at the bottom, and it grew into this like pink, like anemone-like flower thing. Like you could spin it and it'd be like a flower, like pew, pew, going around, and it was crazy.
Wow.
But actually, I can give you a little. This one isn't as much. It's a little older, but kind of see it right there. Oh, here we go. Let there be lights. There we go. Still kind of in there. It's weird stuff. It grows all sorts of weirdness. Guess I probably should have done a larger screen there, but
it could be a new form of art.
Oh, I've definitely taken it to that.
Yeah, let there be light, hey? What does that mean? Was that the spark that started the system? Started the electrolysis?
Yeah.
What do you reckon, Mike, about the sun and the moon being an anode and a cathode?
I got some stuff to show here.
Yeah, let's see what Mikey's got.
All right, so I've been okay. Here, hold on. Let me change my camera here. Oops. Hold on. Okay. All right. So
we are talking free energy, Jace.
Yeah.
Free energy. Free energy.
So
free energy.
So I've been working on a couple of things. I've been working on the flywheel generator. Sorry, it's got wires hanging here. So I've been working on that and made the whole rig for it. I'll talk
Is
about
that just
that
a
after.
wheel, or is that a heavy metal wheel?
No,
Looks
it's just it's a lawnmower wheel.
Yeah, okay. That's what it looks like. Yeah.
It's about 3 pounds, and when you spin it up to a high RPM, you cut the power, it keeps spinning. So I'll have a special circuit. I'm gonna have
That's awesome.
I'll have one magnet on the wheel, with the reed switch right next to it. So what the circuit will do is every time
it a little bit more. But sorry.
Yeah, so when the magnet goes by the reed switch, it'll trip the switch and change it from a generator to a motor for a nanosecond. What it does, it gives the wheel torque, so it sustains its spinning. So if I rev it up, say like 2,000 RPM, and I cut the power, this thing continues to spin for about 10 seconds on its own. Okay, so because of that kinetic energy that's built up in the wheel, so when it passes the magnet and stops pushing the wheel, it now becomes a generator for 355 degrees. When it hits the magnet again, it gives it a torque again to sustain the motion. And this is happening at a very high rate of speed, 2,000 revolutions per minute, right? So it's triggering it 2,000 times every minute.
So you've got a magnet on the wheel and then another magnet. Did I hear that right?
No, just one magnet and a reed switch. So every time it passes it. So a reed switch, when it passes a magnet, it closes it. So when it closes it's basically flipping a switch. And when it flips that, right, and when it flips the switch, it engages the circuit that changes the generator into a motor. So when it changes to a motor, it gives it a torque that sustains that kinetic energy. So it only happens.
Sorry, changing it to a motor, does that just mean it's basically running in reverse?
No, it's redirecting the power. So instead of running as a generator, it's running now as a motor.
Oh, okay. So it's sending the current directly out, sort of.
Yeah, it just redirects the power.
Yep. Okay.
Right. So when so as soon as it passes the reed switch and now opens, now it's in charge mode. So for 355 degrees of the turn, it's charging the battery.
Oh, okay. And then for 5 degrees, it's off, and then
And then it becomes a motor for that, 5 degrees.
Magnetic battery motor.
And that gives it enough torque to just keep it spinning infinitely.
That's right. That's right.
Wow.
That's right.
Cool.
Yeah. And the circuit's actually quite easy, so I'll be showing that at a later date, but I'm just kind of working on the rig here.
Yeah, right. It's kind of similar to the ones that a lot of Indians do with the big flywheels, but they use alternator. But yeah.
Yeah, but they're not using the same circuit that I'm going to be doing.
Different setup.
The Da Vinci wheels within the wheel, Mike, for the extra inertia in the generator. The ones we went over, Campbell. Those. Can you look up on YouTube the VE1 project? And their Da Vinci wheel.
So basically, with a flywheel, the larger the diameter, the more kinetic energy you can store in the wheel. The smaller the wheel, less, but you can churn it at a higher velocity. Because NASA's been working on a similar device for the space station. And
never a straight answer, NASA.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so I could always upgrade this to a larger diameter wheel and get a lot more kinetic energy out of it. So they call this a mechanical battery. That in essence, that's what it is. But I'm using a unique circuit that basically, well, the guys that claim, that we're working on this device claim it's 300% over unity, according to their calculations. So I'm going to use the same circuit that they're using, and I'm going to see what kind of results I get.
Multiple effects.
Okay.
So the next thing I was working on is the spark gap generator, and I found some interesting stuff on that. Now, basically, it entails talking about disruptive discharge. Okay, so what disruptive discharge will do is decrease the amount of load that it takes to run it. So instead of running, all right. So
sort of back torque almost.
No, it's totally different.
Totally different.
This is totally different.
Okay.
So, like Gerald Morin was talking about it too when he had his device going. The second he introduced a spark gap to it, it took the load away from the prime mover.
Oh, okay, okay. I see what you're saying. This is like connecting the pulse motor to the spark gap.
Yeah, well, the prime mover could be a battery or a power source. It could be anything that's powering it. It could be anything. So the second you introduce a spark gap to it, it reduces the load. Now, when you're doing an electrical version like I'm doing here, it actually is detrimental. Now, in the Gerald Morin device, because he's using a mechanical generator, it actually improves the system. Okay?
Gotcha.
So it turns out I get a better performance by actually removing the spark gap and just putting one high-powered neon discharge bulb. Okay, that'll actually act as a miniature spark gap. So what I did was I started experimenting. So what I did was I basically took my spark gaps and I basically shorted them out. I took the gaps away. And all I have as a spark gap now is just that neon bulb. So what's going to happen is before I would have to crank my voltage up to about 10 volts at maybe about a half an amp and to get this 8-watt bulb lit. Okay. Now I got it as low as 3.5 volts at 1 amp. Turns out it's about 3.3 watts. and I can put 3.3 watts into the system, and I'm running 8 watts out. So I have an increase of 5 watts more than what I'm using. So I'll kind of show you how it works here. Okay, hold on. There we go. So we got it going now. Hold on. I gotta get the right voltage.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I think I got a gap going. Hold on. Let me just check my spark gaps here. Make sure everything is closed. Oh, that's maybe why. I had a little separation there. Gotta make sure. Right. Sorry for the shaky hands.
All good.
Okay.
You are not Blair Witching. You're all good.
Okay, so no spark gap now. I'm just using the neon, the blue, green neon. All right, so now I'm only using 5 volts, but it's pulling more amps. But I can turn this power down now significantly. So I'm down to 4. Okay, so I lost it. It's very. I gotta get the voltage back up again. It's very finicky when you get low, but I got it down as low as about 3.8 volts. Nice. So I'm using a lot less power.
No doubt.
The best performance I got was 3.3 watts, and I was running 8 watt bulb.
Yeah.
Okay. Now here's the other thing.
2/3.
Okay.
Almost 3/4.
So I could take my EM meter, okay, and watch. It doesn't go off. There's no EMP being generated, even by the neon. Nothing's happening. Even by the coil it's hooked up to. This is a new coil I did. So there's no EMF field coming off this, but it's running at a. See the inside my the actual power generator, the high voltage generator. It's basically a Tesla coil. It's running in resonance now. Okay, that's why I'm able to get this high output with very little input. Yeah, it's showing 0.9 amps, but it's only 4.5 volts. I can get it even lower. I got it down to about 3.8. So when I did the calculations, the best performance I got was about 3.3 watts, 3.2 watts, somewhere in that range. So now I want to show you the second thing. I'm gonna introduce the disruptive discharge. So I'm gonna open one gap. I'm gonna open it slightly. Now you're gonna have different effects. So now I'll have to put the voltage up a lot higher, but the amperage is going to go way lower, okay? And I'll just show you. I'll start it off at 6 volts. I'll turn it on, okay? So now the light is on, but it's not as bright. Now I got 6 volts, and it's only pulling about 0.4 amps, a lot less, okay? Now, if I take my EM meter, now it's going off. Hear it? See, now it's producing an EMP field, even by the coil, All right. Now, in the last experiment, that LED was not lit. Now it is.
Ah.
See, I just wrapped one wire and hooked up an LED, and it's producing an EM field, charges the green wire, and you got power. All right. Now, if I take that spark gap away, the LED shuts off because there's no disruptive discharge happening. So the spark gap that I do, I just have one going right now, just very small.
So it's the spark gap that's producing the fields.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. So if you're doing wireless transmission or creating a radio transmitter, you have to have a disruptive discharge in the setup. So
okay, and that's just because the spark gap's clear, because it's like it's a vortex point of energy pretty much, so that's why it creates fields. Yeah.
Well, it's creating it by disrupting the actual energy flow. It's pulsing it. It's like an analog version of a transistor. Okay, but it's running at a very, very high frequency. But because of this pulsing action, that's why I can light up an LED bulb just by wrapping one wire around it, and she lights up. And also the EM meter also goes off because it's detecting that field that's being generated. So the second I take away the spark gap, that EM field disappears. So
does the energy flow stay the same?
Sorry?
The energy, like the flow, are you getting the same?
Well, it's because it's disruptive, it's kind of going way high, but inconsistently. So it'll go up and down, it'll vary, it'll never stay stable. Now, if I take the disruptive discharge away, then I can get a steadier flow of energy. But I cannot do wireless transmission. So if I'm going to do, like, put another coil beside this big one, I get it within a certain distance of it, it'll become in resonance with the other coil, and then it'll start transmitting that power wirelessly.
Yeah,
that's how our wireless transmitters and antennas work today. But they use MOSFETs, transistors to create that field.
Okay.
So basically, that's like your simplest form of a radio transmitter. And that's how the Tesla coil works too. It works at a very high frequency, high voltage. That's where you can get a really high gain in voltage. So if you want a more controlled scenario, you have to take away the spark gap and just use one of these little neon tubes. To get those running, you need about 90 volts, right?
But then it's a closed circuit and no wireless.
Not wireless, no.
Yeah.
So you won't have the electromagnetic interference.
So I mean that would be perfect for like wiring houses and stuff.
Yeah, this would be better for like using in a house scenario, right? But if you want to do wireless power, you have to go exactly the opposite. You
have to get out of the way, so.
Yeah, you need the disruptive discharge happening to do that.
Yeah, right.
So.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely crucial information, Mike. I was from YouTube. I was outside watching from.
How do we
I can't
go?
even log in, right? It's like subscribe to Autodidactic. I'm trying.
Yes,
yeah,
everyone.
So that's So that was a kind of an important find for me on this, because you have to know. Like I said, this stuff takes a while to figure
harm
it out.
to your system than good, right? You've had to figure out, and then chances are it's positioning too, that you might find another spot within the jewel thief part of the circuit or something like that where the spark gap's more useful or something.
Really the key is getting that coil into resonance, right? And if you want to do, say, like charge like capacitors and stuff like that, that coil has to be a resonance. So if it's got too much disruptive discharge there's no current flowing, right? So
how do you get a coil in resonance?
Coil in resonance? Well, you see, the spark the high voltage generator I have is actually in essence a Tesla coil already inside. So it's made to run without a spark gap. So it's already designed to actually be in resonance. So if I attach it to something else, then I could power up stuff like lights or charge capacitors. I could throw it through a full wave bridge rectifier, and then I could start charging batteries with it or whatever. But when you go into the disruptive, like having the spark gap, that's more made for wireless transmission of power. because it has to create that field. It has to create that transmitters what you're building, right?
Yeah, it's got to be at the right frequency. Yeah.
Yeah, it's different. Like, see, if you do wireless stuff, then you can light up light bulbs from a distance. As long as it has a coil that's in resonant frequency with the emitter coil, then as long as those two are in the same resonance, same winding, same materials, basically a carbon copy of itself, then you come into a certain proximity, it picks up that field, boom, you got the same power with no wires attached to each other. You got that wireless connection. So it all depends on what direction you want to go. Do you want to make something that's a wireless power source? Then you'll need a spark gap. If you don't want it, if you don't want that, and you want to use a high voltage and get a coil into resonance so you can charge something like a capacitor or a battery, or put it through a full wave bridge rectifier, or whatever you want to do, you have to figure out what direction you actually want to go in. So by identifying these different scenarios, right?
Yeah.
It helps. It helps
see what works, what doesn't, what's doing what.
Yeah, it's all part of experimentation, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, you're doing well.
So the next thing I'm going to do probably tomorrow is try to start charging capacitors with the system.
Nice.
So we'll see how that goes.
So a capacitor is basically a battery, yeah?
Yeah, it's well, there's different types. There's ceramic, there's electrolytic, there's super caps, there's many different, types of capacitors. But even like charging a battery is actually a lot easier than charging a super cap. Super cap's not easy to charge. It demands a lot of amperage and not so much voltage, more amperage. Yeah.
I mean, if you could make a small device that can charge a battery, then you can run heaps off that. You can run cars, houses.
Yeah.
You've got a little power source then, don't you?
Yeah, I like to loop the system, so basically it'll sustain itself by charging itself while running other devices.
Exactly.
But also having this flywheel generator hooked up to the scenario will actually make it a lot easier.
Well, that'll give it perpetual motion, won't it? Pretty much.
Yeah. That's the goal.
Wow.
Hell yeah.
Wow, perpetual motion machines. Gee.
And you know what? And that's another one. That's almost like saying free energy. It's looked at and hindered on so badly. And I was talking with Bernie in the last show about free energy and why I hate using that free energy, because to me, the term free energy to me means is you don't have to pay for it. That's it.
Right? Like the wind, hydrogen from water, like your solar panel, like it's ridiculous. The converted washing machines that you put into a stream, get a little bit of hydro out of.
So
I mean, that is free. That's free mechanical energy, really. That's not free.
What I prefer to use is I build machines that harness power.
Yeah.
You're
a power harnesser. Yes.
Yeah.
Harness the power.
Harness the power. I am the power.
We are the power. Power to the people.
He-Man.
He-Man.
Power to the people. That is what it is.
Yeah, it's energy harvesting is what I do. Because you can't make energy and you can't destroy it. You can harvest it. Energy is already there. So we design devices to harness that power.
Yep, that's all it is. It's all free until they make you pay for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's what I've been working on.
Doing well.
Want some more of it.
We'll definitely have to do a build show where we can get these.
Well,
find an old TV and rip this out of it and get this out of a radio, and then when you got your bits, make this.
Well, that's why I do the YouTube channel. That's why I like to show people that you don't have to spend a lot of money and have a huge budget to make some pretty cool stuff.
Have you got videos showing like where to get secondhand?
Like you know, you can.
Apart and...
Yeah, I haven't done a show about that, but you know, you can go to Home Depot and buy a lot of the stuff, or Canadian Tire.
Yeah.
You know,
it's all pretty cheap stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, like I've also got an army surplus that's not too far from me. I could always get some really cool stuff in there too.
Nice.
Yeah, so yeah, there's a lot of material out there you can get for very, very cheap.
So, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
We need to do that. Cool. All right. So what are we up to now? Bernie, got anything to say? I'm actually.
I'm like looking over the crypto market right now because we've got
oh my God,
yeah, it's one of those moments where you just have to hodl, you hold, you know, you don't panic sell.
Oh no, don't sell. No. It's just crazy. Like some of the drops and rises are just like what?
Yeah, the tech sector
is to hold the stable coins, and you pair the stable coins.
There's
like
someone in there like doing something. It's just it looks
absolutely.
It's so obvious, man. It's so manipulated at the moment. It's just.
Oh, and then don't forget the scam coins. Like, oh, here's my $110,000 account of. Oh wait, it's like maybe $2,000 are real.
Yeah, you know what? The whole monetary system is a scam.
Oh, of course it is. Yeah. Fiat.
Galabet's right there. My scam coin. There's 97,000, and then this Ethereum Meta. What a scam that is! Like, oh, $10,000. Yeah, good luck. Try to cash it out. It's like 30 cents.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't. I'd be staying away from one of the coins until you know what they are. At the moment,
but, like, I only put in like $2 to those, and it's like they just
it's worth taking a chance if you got $2 for sure.
Well, it's a gamble, right?
So,
yeah, it's gambling. Yeah, as long as you look at it like gambling.
You never put in more than you can afford to lose. That is
exactly. Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of money to be made on this market too, with all this crypto going up and down. Just right the market's up and down.
Let's look at the Cardano. Good old Cardano.
What's
Cardano at? ADA used to be. How is it up 91,000? What? I don't know. There's some weird numbers going on in this here. Anyways, there's $754 in it, and it's like, let's look at the total. At one point it was worth 1,400. Yeah, 1,400 is what I started it at. I put in 1,455. My Cardano is currently worth $754. Thanks, Cardano. $1.23. You have done me so
well.
Benny.
Sell.
Sell.
This is what you call a long-term hodl. You leave it staked. You earn that interest. It's building. It's developing. It's a slow mover. I first heard about it from. The first time I heard about Cardano was 8 years ago. That's before Cardano existed. It was from a remote viewer, CIA guy that turned remote viewing. Now he's crypto viewing is his channel. Great channel.
Crypto viewing?
Yeah, but he told us you hold on to Cardano and XRP and XLM, he said. And he told me the videos were out before these companies even existed. And it was he's and it's there's good things to come in the future.
What's he called? The what? The crypto what?
Crypto viewing, I think.
Crypto viewing.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, right.
He's one of the guys that used to be on the oh God, why can't I think of it right now? Farsight Institute. He was on Farsight.
Yep.
And he lives out in Hawaii. He's a great dude. I don't know why I can't think of the name right now, but it will come to me.
I wish you get onto him and get some
Right?
get some signals. Tell me what the market will look like tomorrow.
My old channel subscriptions, and I can't.
Any remote viewers who want to come and give us free tips on how to make millions by doing nothing, please.
Well, I was working on that.
It's not by doing nothing; it's properly investing.
Yeah, properly investing.
Exactly. Advice. This is how you game the matrix in the simulation of the metaverse.
I did some remote viewing.
Nice.
I did pretty good with it, actually.
I like that. Let's listen. Please do tell.
What did you go and see?
Oh,
where'd he go?
Where's Mike?
He's left us hanging.
He's gone. Ah!
I guess we have to remote view him. Maybe it was
There
a scam.
He's back.
He's back.
I hit the wrong button.
I do
hit the wrong button.
I'm like,
oops.
So do tell, Mike.
Well, I studied Russell Targ. He worked at SRI for like 25 years, and he was doing a CIA project of remote viewing. And so he's a physicist. He was actually one of the guys who pioneered the laser. And he's actually clinically blind. And so he got together 3 guys that were probably the best psychics and remote viewers on the planet at that time. And they did real science on it, and they proved that this is actually real. There's something to it.
Yeah.
And the CIA got interested, the Secret Service got interested, and they kind of made a mockery of it. And it went into, like, I guess you could say, like a black project, where they started getting secretive, and then they pulled one of the guys aside and, you know, gave him an offer and said, you know, come work for us and do all this work. So in that time period, they came up with an app. Russell Targ came up with this app. It's called the ESP Trainer. You can get it on your iPhone or your Android device. And it gives you these little diagrams, and you have to predict what's going to pop up.
I think I've seen that.
Yeah, so it trains you. It trains your mind to do it, because everybody on the planet has the ability to be psychic.
Exactly.
Yeah, you just have to train your mind. And I did it, and I was doing some pretty weird stuff. I did this one where they say kind of clear your mind, and the first thing that pops into your head, like the experiment I did was actually on my lunch break at work, and I pictured a screw and a bolt at the far bay door of the complex where I work, right by where the switch is to open and close the door. And I saw it in my mind that these 2 objects were right below where that switch was. It just popped in my head all of a sudden. It just randomly came into my head. So anyways, I get up and I walk to the end of the shop. I come up to the switch to open the door. I look down, and guess what's on the floor? A screw and a bolt. And I didn't even know it was there. And when that happened, obviously I've seen it. I've seen it through my mind, because I did not expect that. It was just intrinsically random. It was random. Yeah, it was the third eye.
Yeah. Well, they were using it back in like John D. and Elizabeth I were using. Like they sort of doing remote viewing and everything. Yeah, they got it from some old book or something, and
that's well documented. That's
where a lot of the whole sort of seance science came from.
Yeah, it's real.
Seancing of science.
Because honestly, our brain, our consciousness runs in the quantum field.
Yes, your mind is not inside your head.
Your consciousness doesn't lie within your brain.
Exactly.
It's out there.
Just
our
soul,
body,
your spirit, your trace consciousness, whatever you want to call it. It's
our consciousness does not lie within our brain.
It's a receiving station. The brain's like a receiving station. Yeah.
We're a radio.
Radios. Yeah. Gosh, I wish I could find the dial to change some people's station. God.
Some people are stuck between two stations.
Yeah, I know, right? They just talk static.
White noise. Anyways, guys, it's almost 2:00 here.
Oh my God, really? We're gonna have to start you earlier.
Sorry,
Yeah, I'm
we
following
had
this.
the major technical difficulties. Thanks, StreamYard.
Yeah, we lost half an
Expect
hour or
to be
something.
hearing from them very soon.
Oh, Brandy just gave him the evil eye.
Boring. Both Campbell's paid services and the credits of my signing people's up and like, come on.
Here we are advertising StreamYard. God,
Right? Like,
bloody hell, not good at all. Yeah, I might jump off too because I think I got like 3 hours
exactly.
sleep last night, and might need a
I
bit
gotta
more.
get over to Amber's anyways. I might let it play out though for a little bit longer on the Maury King video that we started with. Just gonna leave that to play off. So that,
Sounds good.
Yeah, exactly. So
Alrighty, well, thanks everyone for joining us. We didn't get much chat in, but I hope you enjoyed that. Leave us lots of likes, comments. Of course, go over to Faraday Research. Like, subscribe, share, leave comments. Like you said, there's heaps of Mike's work showing you how he's making all these circuits and free energy devices. So, yeah, go over there and learn how to do it. And thank you all for joining us and spending some time with us.
we love you all.
All right.
I love you all.
Alrighty, have an awesome weekend, guys.
We will be back before it's all done.
Take care.
Before you know it. All right. Cheers, Mike.
Cheers.
Cheers, Ben. See
Thank
you guys.
See you, Bern.
Later, brother.
Bye.
All right. For everyone sticking around, we have the Maury King
or even charged bubbles that
oscillating
oscillate in the
electric field.
The Oxygen is my best example for that. Oxygen power was done in Canada. Their lead inventor and scientist was Stephen Barry Chambers. Stephen Barry Chambers' sister was Marilyn Chambers, and Marilyn Chambers was the wife of Stan Myers. After Stan Myers' death, she took the material up to her brother, and they founded Oxygen Power. He has a patent. The 3 patents are identical, other than adjustments claims, and there was only one thing unusual about his patent, and that was under the water, there's a toroidal coil. And you go, why in the world would you put that under the water? He thought that while the magnetic field will make para-hydrogen, because the gas I get burns better in a Honda generator compared to when I don't use it. However, the magnetic field stays in the toroid. It doesn't come out of the toroid, so it can't be the magnetic field. Furthermore, they never measured the gas to see if it was para-hydrogen. But what does come from the toroid, an oscillating magnetic field creates an oscillating vector potential, which creates an oscillating E field in a torus shape, right around, out in the water, right around the coil. And any charge clusters simply can oscillate with us, causing turbulence and thus causing more cavitation. We can do it sonics and ultrasonics. The best example I found was Freddie Wells is very controversial because of the suppression and the stories, but presumably he got his thing so well running, he was able to run a Dodge truck on the thing strictly from the gas. He stressed that these pipes have to oscillate acoustically, which is a difficult thing to do because the diameter difference of the outer pipe and the inner pipe has to be longer. He has to cut them so they all ring at the same acoustical frequency. That's going to be the drive frequency of his pulse modulator. And that's a difficult thing to do. But boy, when he does it, he gets a large amount of gas. And then in the future ones, he says, I'm going to use ultrasonics in the future. Cavitating pumps, as well as vortexes in water, likewise produce cavitating bubbles. James Griggs is famous in the 90s. He has the hydrosonic pump that produced hot water. He was claiming from measurements that he was over unity. He had 130% efficiency, but he had to back off those claims to make the device commercial because people were calling him a fraud. So he backed off the claims, just said, I'm highly efficient. And when you read the patent, you'll realize there's barbed edges on the lips of his holes, and he drills boreholes that are countersunk to produce vortex action in the holes. So that's how he produces a cavitation with his rotor. Perhaps the first free energy device ever that may have worked was from John Keeley. And he made it based on water hammer 10 years before water hammer was even recognized as existing in the scientific community. And those bulbs there would be called pulsating chambers, could produce vortex flow in the water. Dale Palm's website's great for his attempts to bring Keeley's work forward, and he tries to replicate Keeley's devices. Victor Schauberger's famous for the water vortex experiment. He claimed some excess energy device from this water jet turbine. Look at the shape of that turbine down at the bottom. It's similar to the Richard Clem device, who was doing likewise, but using cooking oil as working fluid. And this machine presumably was self-running. Dan Winter has a wonderful educational website for these energetics, and he thinks that the vortex flow from water, it energizes the water, and there's a vortex imploder shower head they have for sale. Sterling Allen wrote in his PesWiki News about Andrea Rapato's work in Italy, where he has a company called Biocavitation. When they cavitate, they're looking to energize the water to enhance plant growth, water purification, even claims of nuclear remediation. He gave Sterling a Venturi shower head, right, that makes a squeal as it pushes out the water. Keep that idea of a water flow shower head in mind when we look at the electrolyzers. Circulating the water does three great things. It cavitates, it can cause cavitation, it charges it by electrostatic rubbing, and it also allows you to recirculate to keep reintegrating the energy content of the water. Prevenslik has a seminal paper on the web called Bubbles and Steam Electricity, where he explains steam electricity, waterfall ionization, sonoluminescence, and thundercharge cloud separation with a zero-point model involving the cavitation bubbles. If Prevenslik is correct, it means that lightning is sourced from the zero-point energy itself. On the thundercloud dynamics, the grapple or its tiny ice crystals are blown up by the wind, it falls down, it circulates, and it's very much like a Van de Graaff generator, where we have the insulator belt rubbing against the combs, sharp combs, and here we're going to let water, distilled water, be the insulator. It acts like the dielectric belt. When it rubs up against the rough conductive plates, they act like the combs. We're making a Van de Graaff generator by circulating water. Here's one embodiment of the idea where we circulate the water across the bottom. You go as fast as you can with the pump. Creates a lot of turbulence in the electrolyzer, and then the gas comes off. Another embodiment is where we put the reservoir at the top. Then the gas itself, and we circulate through the electrolyzer completely, the gas itself helps push the water up. So the pump doesn't have to work as hard. As it pushes the water up, it bubbles out of the reservoir. We use the spark arresters to keep any backflash from igniting the gas that's coming out. You could use a cavitating pump if you want, or let the plates themselves cause the cavitation by reed cavitation because the gaps are so small. So this embodiment does all three, does everything, does the circulation, does the rubbing. You get the plates to vibrate like the reeds of a harmonica, right? And wow, this is I believe this is the winning embodiment because it combines all the ideas. So what's the goal? We make these devices and we make a self-running system. With that, we can prove we have a new energy source. Self-running system, you have the electrolyzer making the gas. It runs a genset, a motor generator combination. You use the electricity from the generator to drive a wave modulator, drive a pump if you're circulating. And what you want to show is that you have more energy out than you put in. Therefore, you can make it self-running. You can use a battery to kickstart it, but the goal is to make it self-running. Here's our action item for the inventors. Make the closed loop self-running system, prove there's a new energy source, and then share the information on the web. 2 teams have actually succeeded. Steve Eaton and Jeff Sokol teamed up in Hybridtech, and then they came out, I think it was in 2009, announcing that they ran a Troy-built generator with the electrolyzer, only producing 6 liters per minute of uncompressed gas. There's a picture of it. I have more pictures. Here's the 6-inch prototype, very tight gap, 1/32 of an inch, using concentric cylinders. Here's the wiring diagram of the pipes. Basically, we're charging three banks in parallel, like they were capacitors, and then they're connected in series. So we have a 4-volt drop in between the electrodes. He kept electrodes separated by a mono-spiral filament. Kind of reminds me of fishing line. It was very, very thin for that thin gap. You can see it a little better here. And you see the spiral up? Well, that spiral forces the water gas to spiral up and keep rubbing against the electrodes. He decided he had to make a big one because that's how he would get the overunity effect. He thought he had to make a big one, but had he realized that you could recirculate the water and keep charging it, he may have gotten away with using the little one. Team out of Germany, Oliver and Valentine, they're pure hobbyists. They work with a very, very cheap generator. They were on a very strict budget. They had the jerry rig to change the timing on it, you can see. But nonetheless, by working with a very good cell, the Anton cell, they were able to make this device self-running. They put it on a cart. They took it on an elevator ride, on a hand cart, rode on the elevator for about 8 minutes. They came up with their big Christmas video, I think in 2010, and they felt it was going to change the world. And so Stefan Hartmann made a fun video of splicing their video with the old 1984 Apple commercial, and it makes a fun finale. To summarize the high points of the electrolyzer, it should be rough, clean surface, small gaps are the best, causes turbulence and cavitation. The electrical stimulation can be pulse waveforms. You want to minimize your current and thus minimize your electrolyte. We're not trying to do electrolysis. We are not trying to make hydrogen. And frictional rubbing is a great way to charge it via circulation. And cavitation, the cavitation bubble collapses into a reentrant jet, which forms the water crystal. If we can get that thing into a closed loop, we have our stable torus of Rydberg matter that stores the energy coherently. And if it can produce transmutation, then Mark LeClair gets to name it after himself because it changes the world if this is true. So how to cavitate. Electrolysis gas in the narrow gaps. That's how everybody is doing it. They're doing it inadvertently. They didn't realize they're trying to cavitate. They just know narrow gaps work great. Blowing air through, pulling a Venturi vacuum, any type of vibration, mechanical, acoustical, sonic, ultrasonic, and electrical fields. Any oscillating electrical field will cause any charge clusters to oscillate. Circulation, we charge it by rubbing. We create more turbulence and cavitation when we circulate. If we can get the plates vibrating, like a shower massage, and recondition gives us a great electrolyzer. And by recycling the water into the reservoir and back through, we keep increasing the energy content of the water. And then if you increase it enough, you can take some of that water, spray some mist into a carburetor of a motorbike, and give the illusion that water is a fuel. Here's our action items. Chemistry departments, make Brown's gas, vent away the hydrogen. What's remaining? What is that gas that burns that remains? Physics departments, repeat LeClair's transmutation experiment, measure the new isotopes. And inventors, make a self-running system with electrolyzers and generators. Don't worry about the cars yet, because once we convince the engineers we have a new energy source, it'll be a cakewalk to retrofit cars. So the most important thing from the inventors is share the information on the web to make a new world. Thank you.
And thank you everyone for being here and staying to the end and watching this sort of information.
Anybody else?
Because I love
Do you
sharing.
know how many years of research
Moray King, what is OG in the industry trying to help save us all?
Maury has been
Bless
on the
his
phone
soul.
with me regularly for the past month and a half, almost 2 months, working on this. He has put so much effort in there, so much. This is so dynamite. This is packed with so much energy. This has more than C4. There's more energy in this. This may even have more than HHO in it. You know, we have time to entertain a couple of questions.
Absolutely. And let me give an afterword here. When I started this research in the 70s, this torus form business, I had these dreams. Other people I ran into it. It was like, I called it donuts on the brain. It's like the good Lord was trying to convert us all into Homer Simpsons. And of course, here's the latest incarnation of that. We saw that last night. A word from our sponsors. The books are over there in the Tesla bookstore. And perhaps the most important thing, how can you get a copy of this slideshow? This slideshow is up on the web already at the same site that all the other ones are up. This is annotated so it stands alone. All the speaker comments are in there. All you have to do is Google water fuel ZPE. It's very important that everybody download a copy so that it can be reposted if anybody tries to remove this information. So now, any questions?
Yes, that's all in the DVD. We have time for a couple of questions. The first person I would like to bring over is someone that was actually on the presentation. This is Vernon Roth.
Murray, could I make a little bit of a footnote to make about some things? Okay, when he showed the Brown's gas torch going through his hand, The reason why that happens is because the gases are actually quite literally punching a hole through the air. And when you run your hand through it, it doesn't have time to punch a hole through your hand. That's why you can actually run your hand across the flame. Thank you, appreciate that. And I tried this because, yes, I am insane. You can actually burn yourself with Brown's gas. It does work. Yeah. The reason why it does not boil water is because the water itself quenches the implosive action of the flame. And that's why it will not boil water, and that's one of the reasons why. Now, I want to reaffirm also that what he said about limiting the current is absolutely essential. What I have found in all of my hydrogen research, which is pretty fun stuff, is that the more energy you put into it, the less energy you get out. Absolutely, 100% of the time, the more energy you put in, the less energy you get out. So if you can do it with a minimal amount or any other means possible, literally the electrolysis breaks down the gases that Morey is talking about here. So the less energy in, the more energy in the gas you'll find. And lastly, this is really exciting, because I'm not speaking this year, so I just have to throw this out. The toroids. Astrophysicists have recently discovered they've actually seen the birth of the most young suns that ever documented. They are literally water-based toroids that are collapsing into plasma. Our sun is literally a giant ball of water that is collapsing over and over and over again as plasma. And we see it in this spectrum, whereas in incredibly far distances, we're actually able to see that it is a plasma that is it forms into a toroid, collapses, releases energy, and it's igniting itself into a plasma. So what we're seeing here is the birth of Genesis, and it's a beautiful thing. Thanks a lot, Morey.
Well, thank you, Barry.
Better than sliced bread, this is a breakthrough, killer gangbusters. First of all, one of the things this explains is why close capture is so good, because you want to have an enormous electrostatic field. And this is another reason why rough surfaces are good. And when you have that electrostatic flux, the water is going to want to make eddy currents. So suddenly you've got an eddy current, and you've got a huge electrostatic gradient because of the point. So suddenly, that toroid can be a collapsing monopole. They'll have a magnetic field going around, electrostatic field going through. About 10 years ago, I interviewed at a company in Grass Valley, California called Impulse Technologies. And they were making spheres that were about 1 foot across, and they were about 2 inches thick, and they make them in halves, and they bring them together, and they'd electrostatically weld them around the outside. Butt-kicking sphere, basically speaking. And they had a couple of penetrations, and they excited it so that it was basically the spherical wave. And they pumped this thing for about 20 minutes, and all of a sudden, bang, it'd cavitate, and they get all this weird stuff that was happening on the inside. And they never even got a clue that they were getting this style of cavitation. Bravo.
Oh, thank you. This is easy. I didn't have to answer anything yet.
Name is Harvey Fiala. I'm absolutely amazed at the amount of knowledge you bring to this presentation. You mentioned like tungsten vaporized at 10,000 degrees plus. When your arc cuts it, is it cool or is it boiling hot?
Good question. Finally, the answer is when it reacts with the metal. And I think when Ken Shoulder's studies probably explained it the best. So we have coherent energy stored. It's reacting with the metal, the electrons in the metal. Okay, it drives them into a higher energy state. When they collapse back, that's what produces the heat. So as they collapse back in the metal form, that's when the metal glows. Now we're getting heat. It requires the interaction of that gas or that flame with the metal to make it to get high temperatures.
So the metal stays cool?
No.
Or no, it gets, So you don't
We,
dare
we,
touch
we
it.
actually broke the electron bonds very easily.
We got a hand raised in the back here, Maury.
But you don't dare touch it when you cut it, right?
I wouldn't.
Okay.
By the way, I wouldn't pass my hand through an acetylene torch either, because they call you stubby.
Can I make a comment on that one too?
Go ahead.
I was cutting a piece of metal, a tubular piece of metal. What was really amazing about this, about cutting with the Brown's gas flame, is that while you are actually cutting, while the flame is going through the metal, all of the heat is localized right around the cut, right around that point. And then as soon as you're done, as soon as the flame moves away from that metal, that's when the heat spreads out. And boy, howdy, that one got me because I was experimenting with that. And when the Brown's gas was removed, then the heat propagated through the entire rod that I was cutting. And the entire rod just went from being holdable in your hand to being second-degree burns instantly.
Good safety tip.
Cautionary tale.
Yes, Dick Allgaier. That is
one quick
crypto
side
healing.
note.
Thank you.
When it comes to hydrogen research, another
Thank you.
silent giant is this giant standing behind me. It's also our PM, Don Kuntz. You should see some of the the tools that he has in his garage, and some of the test equipment and the hydrogen that he's got. Actually, those two are co-conspirators. Vernon Roth and those two, they get into trouble together. Research.
Yeah, the more the merrier. We need numbers. The goal is 1 million inventors with self-running generators. You can't suppress that.
Dr. Ed Bedreau, PhD, chemistry and physics, has just published a book in July supporting exactly what Vernon was talking about. And it is how to create every element from water. The tables, the energy equations, and the physics are all in this book.
Same as
Dr. Ed
Walter
Bedreau
Russell's work
was
100
professor
years
of the
ago.
year a couple of times, taught at the University of New Orleans. This book was just published this month. There is a complimentary copy for you. There'll be one out on the stand, and you can order copies of the book because it lays out just how this earth was created, how creation is occurring in the universe, all from water. If you want to make gold, just read the book.
Can we get rich? No, because you'll drop the price of gold. By the way, which shows the only investment of wealth is each other. That's our true wealth.
Exactly. And if you have gold fever, and some of us know from experience about gold fever, you go
I
away
got
with all
offended
things.
by the Canadian bashing.
Praise God, because the secret is in creating every element from water. And the Kazumo, you probably read his paper. It was the thing that convinced me there was really something to this other than what Faraday said. And fortunately, he explained it very well today. You did, Stan. All kinds of credit to you. But he showed that not only can you make every element from water, you can make water from water.
Oh, that's handy.
And actually, when you disassociate the water, that Japanese paper proved that you get 16 times more water than you disassociated. Exactly. And if you look at it from that standpoint, to get the water, you have to burn it. The energy is the byproduct of creating more water. Enough said.
We got time for one more.
Yeah, hi, Dr. King. When you create the Brown's gas, are there any
like safety issues? In particular, is radioactivity created that would give the government kind of an excuse to suppress it, you know, on safety concerns?
Well,
Get the gist of my question.
The government doesn't need an excuse to suppress it. Just without an excuse. But of course, safety concerns. If we're working with energy in this concentrated form, energy is energy, right? So of course there's concerns. And that's why you don't want to foolishly, for example, if you don't know that you have the pure gas and you have hydrogen, you certainly don't want to store that under pressure if you have hydrogen, right? So you have to be smart. The people that know how to store it say, I'm venting that hydrogen. My containment will be porous to hydrogen if I choose to store this gas under pressure. So people that do the storage and build up a little bit of pressure, 30, 50 PSI, will work with very weak containment. And even if that should explode, it's like a milk container or something. And you don't make too much, just make what you need. But the answer is, of course, it's dangerous.
But are the radioactive byproducts created?
Maybe, because Mark LeClair was warning about that. He said, if you're getting supernucleosynthesis, then you're all over the place. And we're just to produce that, if that's produced, right, that changes the world if people replicate that, because you're forced to be confronted with zero-point energy. There's really no energy with that type of concentration that could affect the nucleus. And unfortunately, likewise, the reason why it's ignored in the West, even the plasmoid strikes, which are very repeatable, it implies that there's a different model of the nucleus than just simply the quark theory, which the Russians are definitely willing to entertain as they dive into what's going on with those experiments. So the answer is, of course, I think it's very important to be safe and use common sense as you do these experiments.
The Russians.
Ladies and gentlemen, a warm round of applause for the king. Yes. The king is
Yakamoto experiment. Anyways, love you all. Hopefully we don't get in trouble. Fair use, educational purposes. Weekend at Bernice, StreamYard, YouTube. Come on, give me my channel back. It's been 2 months, you lovely people. What is that? It's one of Bernice's experiments. All right. On that note, we will see you guys in the next one. And girls, and all you lovely souls. Thank you for tuning in. And